How's the royal family? I pray that everyone is doing well. Well, my royal family, I've been saying lately, my royal family, when you see juicy on the end of a title, that mean to go get your shit. Yes, on the True Royal family, in the backup channel is True Royal. Now on deck, what I got today? Lemonade with strawberry juice with plenty ice, and it's quite juicy. Now y'all know I'm gonna milk this for all it's worth. Juicy. Oh, so juicy to me. I have nothing to read because the things that come out of these folks' mouth is epic and juicy. I do have a bonus photo, but my royal family, you know, I may banter and have some humor here and there, but I am very, very serious about the things that I am speaking of. Mark Meadows and Trump are no earthly good. Now, I want y'all to remember something. And I learned this from my master teacher, which is my dear father, James Alfred Newman Jr., told me to pay attention to whistleblowers. And he said, the enemy's woman is not to be trusted because she wants that throne. All right? That's just something to think about as we see the events that unfold in Babylon. We are truly now watching, my royal family, the enemy and his woman at war. Now, they've been at war long, long ago, but now we're seeing it on the world stage. And I told you, with Yahweh told me about who will be the first to get his wrath. And we just seeing an inkling of it, my royal family. Now, the ones that I'm irritating, y'all be saying for me to get to the point, I want your ass off of here. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm going slow. I'm making it juicy. Some folks got to go get their shit. You know, they weed, they wine, they drink, or whatever it may be. All right? So just give me a minute. Oh, a second. Ooh, that hit the spot. That lemon, got a nice twang to it. So, Cassidy Hutchinson told some really interesting things. And the things that she had to say ain't surprising, but it what we're going to learn is about the enemy's true nature. I often talk about nature. I often talk about energy, but the energy points are coming from KD. He has encouraged me to think about energy. I don't steal talking points. I don't get out like that. So, my royal family, I want to do a refresher and a reminder. And I want to put some things on your frontal lobe. These folks that up here speaking and sounding important and sounding like, you know, something gonna be done. This is nothing but a dog and pony show. Now, trust and believe, there's some people that feel some kind of way about certain things that are being exposed. But this is a dog and pony show. And so what I want to go back to is some hearings that was had last summer, just to get a refresher. people, boots on the ground, that was all in the mix. And thank goodness I found something short, sweet, to the point, and will invoke many different things. All right? But remember, the very people that's talking, I'm talking about the whole committee that's put together, they put it on a performance. And these people that actually are speaking, their immediate situation and their lives have been altered for this. Okay? So this is about a little over a 5-minute video. Let's make sure the volume is up as much as possible. I know some people complain about the volume. I have no control how they on the other end record this stuff, because some of this stuff they don't want us to hear. All right, let's listen to this first one.
4 police officers at the U.S. Capitol in Washington have given dramatic accounts of how they confronted rioters during the storming of the building on January 6. The officers were defending the Capitol against hundreds of supporters of then-President Donald Trump. The rioters had entered the building with a goal of stopping Joe Biden from being certified the winner of the presidential election. The officers provided their testimony on the first day of a congressional inquiry into events that day.
Beaten, racially abused, threatened with death. 4 of the officers who stood against the mob that day recounted the terrifying moments in vivid detail.
You swear more and more insurrectionists were pouring into the area by the speaker's lobby near the rotunda, and some wearing MAGA hats and shirts that said Trump 2020. I told them to just leave the Capitol, and in response they yelled, "No, man, this is our house. President Trump invited us here."
The police officer.
At times overwhelmed by emotion, officers provided new testimony before the nation.
I knew I couldn't sustain much more damage and remain upright. At best, I would collapse and be a liability to my colleagues. At worst, be dragged out into the crowd and lynched. Unable to move or otherwise signal the officers behind me that I needed to fall back, I did the only thing that I could do and screamed for help.
My fellow citizens, including so many of the people I put my life at risk to defend, are downplaying or outright denying what happened. I feel like I went to hell and back to protect them and the people in this room. The indifference shown to my colleagues is disgraceful.
While the opening hearing focused mostly on the officers' gripping accounts, Committee Chair Benny Thompson ended the day with the promise to go after the people responsible for the day of violence.
We need to understand how and why the big lie festered. We need to know minute by minute how January 6th unfolded. We need to understand how the rotten lie behind January 6th has continued to spread and feed the forces that would undermine American democracy.
A majority of Republicans believe Biden was illegitimately elected, a lie that Donald Trump has helped spread. The former president has also downplayed his alleged role in inciting the insurrection, and many others in his party have perpetuated a false version of events. On the day of the hearing, several Republican lawmakers met in front of the Justice Department building to protest against the investigation and on behalf of jailed January 6 rioters. Congresswoman Liz Cheney, one of 2 Republicans on the committee, had harsh words for them.
The fact that many members of our leadership and others, the fact that they've gone from recognizing what happened on the 6th to protesting in front of the Justice Department on behalf of those who were part of the insurrection is something that I can't explain. I think it's a disgrace.
Benny Thompson said the committee could meet again before the end of August, and that he would seek testimony from Trump administration officials and possibly the former president himself.
DW's Stefan Simons is in Washington and has been following the hearing on Capitol Hill. He sent us this assessment.
The officer's testimony today heard at the first hearing of the Selective Committee in Congress was gut-wrenching and critical. the testimony of those officers established something like a baseline, a status quo for what the hearing was supposed to deliver and what the committee is supposed to deliver. An investigation of what happened on January 6th. Why did this happen on January 6th? What led to January 6th? Who is responsible for what happened on January 6th? Who pulled the strings behind? And foremost, what happened afterwards? How are we as American people, how is this country expected to heal from this, what happened on January 6th, and make things better? Because, as all committee members said, this was an attack on democracy, on the American Constitution, and on the peaceful transition of power. Most importantly, that's the point committee members all made, is that they're doing their job because they don't want things to be not unpacked. It is important, they say, for America to unpack everything, to bring everything on the table, to not push things under the rug and not talk about them.
All right. So I wanted to, again, refresh the royal family's memory. I wanted to make a point of doing that. And when this is all done, I'm going to tell you exactly what is going to be done. I have been watching these dog and pony shows, I think, since about the age of 12 or 13. And I have learned over time many things, but I have learned a great deal from the royal family. I thank you immensely, Yahweh, that I'm always open to learn. So I set the stage, my royal family, and I know some people seen it go down. And it was like, ooh-wee. It was quite juicy. It was entertaining. It was. I ain't gonna front. I even played some more parts of it. And then what I appreciated, because I wanted to present it to the royal family, the very part that True Royal needed, oh, they delivered. And I'm about to deliver too. So let's lean all up in it and hear what's really going on. So we're going to have about 7 minutes of juiciness. Yes, bombshell testimony. Epic!
Bombshell testimony today in the January 6th hearing. History is important. During the Watergate hearings 50 years ago, there was only one surprise witness. It was Alexander Butterfield, who revealed there was a White House taping system. Well, in the January 6 hearings, the surprise witness is Cassidy Hutchinson. Then Chief of Staff Mark Meadows' top aide described the then president's fits of rage that included throwing plates of food, grabbing the steering wheel of the presidential limo, and lunging at a Secret Service agent. Hutchinson said Trump was furious that Secret Service agents were keeping some of his supporters outside of the White House ellipse because they had weapons. The other big news we learned today is that Rudy Giuliani and the president's chief of staff sought pardons. That means we now know of at least 9 individuals who sought pardons from President Trump in the final days of his term. Let's get straight to CBS's Scott McFarlane at the Capitol with all the new details. Good evening, Scott.
Hey, Nora, the House committee and this 26-year-old former aide to the former White House chief of staff painted a powerful picture, beginning with the Trump White House ignoring warnings of looming violence at the Capitol and ending with the chief of staff seeking that presidential pardon. When the day began, Cassidy Hutchinson was a name and face unknown to most Americans. By the end of the day, she'd made history, including her description of an altercation in the presidential limo when his chief Secret Service agent, Bobby Engel, refused to bring then-President Donald Trump to the U.S. Capitol, to which he just directed the crowd on January 6th.
The president said something to the effect of, "I'm the effing president, take me up to the Capitol now." To which Bobby responded, "Sir, we have to go back to the West Wing." The president reached up towards the front of the vehicle to grab at the steering wheel. Mr. Engel grabbed his arm, said, "Sir, you need to take your hand off the steering wheel. We're going back to the West Wing. We're not going to the Capitol." Mr. Trump then used his free hand to lunge towards Bobby Engel.
In the early hours that day, Hutchinson said Trump was warned of people carrying weapons, including guns, descending on key landmarks in D.C. But that Trump sought to have the metal detectors removed, concerned they'd reduce the size of his White House ellipse crowd.
"Take the effing mags away. They're not here to hurt me. Let them in. Let my people in. They can march to the Capitol after the rally's over."
President Trump was aware that a number of the individuals in the crowd had weapons and were wearing body armor. And here's what President Trump instructed the crowd to do.
"We're going to walk down, and I'll be there with you. We're going to walk down to the Capitol."
As rioters began their attack, the president wouldn't budge. Hutchinson said she asked her boss, Trump Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, to intervene.
"The rioters are getting really close. Have you talked to the president?" He said, "No, he wants to be alone right now."
She testified Meadows, White House counsel Pat Cipollone, and Trump all knew of the chants of Hang Mike Pence echoing through the mob.
I remember Pat saying something to the effect of, "Mark, we need to do something more. They're literally calling for the vice president to be effing hung." And Mark had responded something to the effect of, "You heard him, Pat. He thinks Mike deserves it. He doesn't think they're doing anything wrong."
Rioters chanted Hang Mike Pence. The President of the United States, Donald Trump, said that, quote, "Mike deserves it."
The committee cited Nora's interview with the House Republican leader, who urged the president to intervene.
As Nora O'Donnell noted during an interview with House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy.
Leader McCarthy, the President of the United States has a briefing room steps from the Oval Office. Why hasn't he walked down and said that?
Hutchinson described her disappointment with the president's 2:24 p.m. tweet. As attackers poured onto the grounds, he wrote, "Mike Pence lacked courage."
As an American, I was disgusted. It was unpatriotic. It was un-American. We were watching the Capitol building get defaced over a lie.
In the final moments of the hearing, Hutchinson said both Mark Meadows and Rudy Giuliani sought pardons. Trump responded to the hearing, saying Hutchinson's story was a fake story and that he hardly knew her. Nora?
Scott McFarland, thank you. Let's turn to our esteemed political team who are all here watching this unfold with me. John Dickerson, there was a lot that made today different.
There was. We've seen the outside picture on January 6th. What this was today was the inside intimate portrait, the closest look we've gotten to President Trump on that day and his inner circle. And we were given that view by someone who had a unique perch. Hutchinson worked for the chief of staff. That is like being in the air traffic control tower of a White House. So she witnessed the frantic lawyers running through the hall, the pleas from the members of Congress, and her boss, who wilted in the face of a president who was encouraging violence, ignoring the warnings, and even lunging at a Secret Service agent would stop at nothing until the violence started, and then did nothing for so long.
Stunning, really. Jeff Pegues, I mean, that was part of it. President Trump knew there would be violence. What about other law enforcement?
Yeah, and that's a good point. Early on January 6th, the White House, we found out today, was getting warnings about the potential for violence. In fact, there were reports that some people were there in the crowd armed with AR-15s or handguns, even spears, and yet the inclination was, hey, let's not beef up security, let's lessen the security there because President Trump wanted his supporters there. And as you know, I was in the crowd that day at the Capitol. It was clear to me and others at the scene that police were outnumbered. It took hours for the National Guard to show up. So this testimony today, Nora, raised serious questions about security that day.
Jeff Pegues, thank you. Robert Costa, what happens now?
We are at a historic crossroads. All eyes turn to Attorney General Merrick Garland. Does he look and evaluate this new evidence and believe that it rises to the threshold of indicting a former president of the United States? A weighty decision for the former judge carries enormous political and legal implications. It's also a decision point for the Republican Party. You spoke to House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy on the day of the Capitol attack. What will they do now after digesting this new information, this testimony? Will they still embrace the former president? And remember, he's eyeing a return, a comeback, a 2024 presidential run.
Robert, Jeff, John, thank you so much.
All right, my royal family, let me take this all the way down. We don't need no pop-ups. And if anybody listened to it, you will enjoy it. Some of that stuff can be boring. That wasn't boring at all, because it was just action after action. You know, you'll hear more deeper into Mark Meadows' nature as well, but you know, naturally people want to hear about Trump's antics and everything. Now, I had said that I had a bonus, and as we close out, let me put the bonus up and tell the royal family what I think that's going to happen. Now, I could be wrong, but I have watched enough of this over many years that these dog and pony shows and all the stuff that these elected officials do, absolutely nothing. Sometimes they may sanction them or something like this. This is no more than a public embarrassment. And Trump don't have a leg to stand on. All he can say is fake news. Is there a possibility that Trump could be voted back into office? Absolutely yes. Look at who's running right now. Herschel Walker. All right? And he ain't no earthly good either. And that race is neck and neck. So you never know how these things are going to go. It makes me think about something that I said. I said once Barack Obama became the president, the way that the enemy and the enemy supporters look at the White House or D.C. in general, that it is forever tainted. But see, there has been tests that's been going on for years to see what the public will tolerate. And I can remember, I think it was like the late 80s or the very early 90s. I forget the guy's name. Was on, I think it's David Duke. They had did like a little survey to see what somebody would vote for somebody openly, knowing that they were a part of the KKK, you know, and flaunting it and just getting a feel of America. But we ain't no fools. We know. I know the royal family know. We know. So they will put people before us that look like you and I. And all you got to do is hear their talking points and pay very close attention to their actions, and you quickly understand who they're riding for at the end of the day. But the thing that gets on my nerves about this type of stuff is you do the investigation, you have the dog and pony show, and you're wasting the taxpayers' money at the end of the day. You're not going to do a damn thing. Again, it's nothing more than a public embarrassment, and it's good to study these things if you choose to watch it, that you learn more about the nature of many things and how these folks get down. So when they out here speaking very sternly and diplomatically and everything else like that, ain't nothing gonna be done. And that was the reason why I had started out with talking about when the cops that were up there and they were affected, and it was very emotional and tears were invoked. And I remember I had a private conversation with Lisa about it, and I said, ain't nothing gonna be done. Ain't not a damn thing gonna be done. You know, they'll get a pat on the back, they'll get some therapy, they'll get some extra money. You know, their media situation may be addressed, but the people who actually have bloods on their hands, ain't nothing gonna be done with them. People have died. People are still affected. And when you hear the people that talk about this, boots on the ground, where you're seeing blood splattered everywhere, you're seeing people, you know, throwing up. And if those folks would have really had a chance to get their hands on those people, there would have been a possibility we would have seen a public hanging. And that's what gets me about somebody like Pence, who still has befriended Trump. Trump wasn't playing. We heard stuff we ain't never heard before, where he's grabbing steering wheels and stuff because he's demanding that he gonna get his way. See, that's when it was time to knock a hole upside his head. I wouldn't have gave a damn who he is. I'm driving and you grabbing the steering wheel and all that. You gonna get an elbow. You gonna get something. You gonna feel at the end of the day. You're not gonna violate my space. But it shows you, Trump. It was something that I was saying to my husband just before I started this. I said, wow, baby. I said, you talking about juicy? I said, this is juicy. But I said, I understand why Yahweh said, vengeance is mine. And my husband said, yeah, he will be dealt with. The things that this so-called man have gotten away with make you feel some kind of way. And in order for him to understand who is truly, truly in charge, it would have to be Yahweh and Yahweh only. That he gonna put something on him that make him feel, all right? Something that he can't shake, something that he can't get away with, something that I often talk about, like many who have had experiences with Yahweh. I don't have words for this. He got to be dealt with. And I feel personally like there is no human on this earth that can really deal with Trump and whoever else that have that type of mentality and thinking they getting away with stuff. And you looking at somebody got a lot of blood on their hands that have hurt a lot of people. There's people that's still hurting till this day. And we are in the age of exposure, and we are watching the enemy go into their captivity, and we are watching the judgment come on them. So everything is a process. As we are coming out, even though judgment is still on us, everything is a process. And we are looking at the side effects of the very system that they set up for thyself. So I'm going to leave it there, my royal family. I know it was quite juicy. Hold up. Yeah, Trump. Yeah, that's what Trump really looked like, my royal family, at the end of the day. Wasn't it juicy, my royal family? I hope y'all enjoyed yourself, my royal family. So all you need to do is render your voice with your beautiful divine words. And as always, my royal family, I thank you for your love. I thank you for your support. And with that said, Ashe.